So here's something nobody ever really questions. If aliens showed up tomorrow, we all pretty much assume they're here to kill us. Not to say hi, not to trade recipes, not even to study us like we're interesting. The default assumption baked into almost every movie, every news speculation piece, every half-serious conversation about UFOs is that contact with extraterrestrial life will go catastrophically badly for humanity. We'll be enslaved, harvested, exterminated, or at best ignored while they strip mine the planet and move on. But why is that the story we tell ourselves? We've never met aliens. We have exactly 0 data points about what they'd want from us. And yet, somewhere along the line, we collectively decided that the most likely scenario is they want us dead. That's not a sci-fi question. That's a question about us. By the end of this video, you'll understand why human beings are evolutionarily wired to assume the absolute worst about strangers, and why that paranoia might be the only reason your ancestors survived long enough to make you. Think about it. We've never encountered aliens. We have no evidence they exist, let alone evidence they're hostile. The universe is so unimaginably big that the odds of us even finding each other are basically 0. And yet, if you ask someone on the street, what would happen if a spacecraft landed in Times Square? The answer is never. They'd probably just want to take some photos and leave. It's always invasion, extermination, Independence Day, War of the Worlds, the thing from space that wants to kill you. And this isn't new. This fear is older than movies. It's older than science fiction. It's even older than the idea of aliens as we understand them today. For most of human history, we didn't imagine beings from other planets, but we absolutely imagined terrifying strangers from over the horizon who wanted to destroy us. Gods, demons, barbarians, plague bringers. The fear is always the same. The others are coming, and when they get here, we're dead. Here's the weird part. Most animals don't do this. A deer doesn't lie awake at night worrying about a different deer from another forest showing up to kill it. Birds don't have apocalyptic myths about the birds from the next valley over. But humans? We have entire genres of entertainment dedicated to the idea that contact with the unknown is synonymous with annihilation. So, where does that come from? Turns out, it comes from the single most important survival lesson our species ever learned. The last time humans met someone completely new, it did not go well. Let's go back about 70,000 years. You're a Homo sapiens living in a small group somewhere in East Africa. Let's call you our guy. Our guy's world is small, maybe 30 people. You know every single one of them. You've known them your entire life. Your survival depends on their survival, and vice versa. You share food, you share knowledge about which plants are poison and which antelope trails lead to water. You speak the same proto-language. You trust each other because you have to. Now one day, our guy is out gathering firewood a little farther from camp than usual, and he sees something that stops him cold. People, but not as people. They're dressed slightly differently. They're carrying tools he doesn't recognize, and they're speaking a language that sounds wrong. The cadence is off. The sounds don't match anything he knows. He does not wave. He does not walk over to introduce himself. He runs. Because here's what our guy's brain is computing in about half a second. These people are competition. They want the same water sources, the same game, the same berry patches. And if they're here, his group might starve. Worse, if they're aggressive, his group might be killed, or enslaved, or driven off their territory into less favorable land where everyone dies of exposure next winter. And our guy's brain is right to be worried, because this exact scenario played out thousands and thousands of times during human prehistory, and the groups that were too trusting didn't make it. One theory, and this is anthropologically well supported, is that early Homo sapiens were incredibly territorial and violent toward outsiders. We have evidence of prehistoric massacres, entire groups wiped out, mass graves where men, women, and children were killed together, probably by rival bands. Anthropologists call this coalitional aggression. Groups of humans cooperating beautifully within the tribe, but treating anyone outside the tribe as an existential threat. And it's not just violence, sometimes the threat was invisible. Let's say our guy's group doesn't run. Let's say they're friendly, they share a meal with the strangers. Everyone seems cool. 2 weeks later, half of our guy's group is dead from a disease the strangers were carrying. The strangers were immune. They'd been exposed as kids, but our guy's people had no immunity, no resistance, and now they're gone. This happened over and over again throughout human history. When isolated populations met each other, disease killed more people than warfare ever did. And from the perspective of the survivors, it looked like the strangers brought death itself. So natural selection did what natural selection does. It favored the groups that were paranoid, the ones that saw strangers and thought, threat, danger, kill or be killed. The friendly groups? A lot of them didn't make it. This fear of the outsider isn't just a prehistoric relic. It's baked into our psychology at a level so deep we don't even notice it most of the time. Psychologists call it in-group/out-group bias, and you can trigger it in a lab in about 5 minutes. Show people pictures of faces from their own ethnic group versus another, and their amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up more for the out-group. It's automatic. It happens even in people who consciously reject prejudice. Your brain is constantly quietly asking, is this person one of us or one of them? And if the answer is them, your threat detection system gets louder. This made perfect evolutionary sense for most of human history, because for most of human history, the them actually was dangerous. Not because they were evil, just because resources were scarce and survival was zero-sum. If they took the hunting grounds, you starved. If you took the water source, they starved. Cooperation between groups was possible, sure, but it was fragile, and it required constant social maintenance. The default state was suspicion. But here's where it gets complicated. Because humans also did something no other animal does. We scaled up. We went from tiny bands of 30 people to chiefdoms of thousands, then kingdoms of millions, then nation-states of hundreds of millions. And we did that by getting really, really good at deciding who counts as us. If you're born in the same village, you're us. If you speak the same language, you're us. If you worship the same God, you're us. If you wear the same flag on your uniform, you're us. But the flip side of that is everyone else is them, and them is still dangerous. Here's a concrete example. In 1492, Christopher Columbus lands in the Caribbean. The Taino people he meets are, by every account, incredibly friendly. They share food. They give gifts. They help the Europeans navigate. They have no concept that these strangers might be a threat. Within 50 years, the Taino are functionally extinct. Disease, enslavement, violence. Doesn't matter which killed more. The point is, the group that was trusting got annihilated. Now flip the script. When Europeans started exploring the Pacific a couple centuries later, they encountered island populations who had learned, through bitter experience, that strangers from the sea were bad news. So they attacked on sight. And you know what? A lot of those groups survived. Being paranoid wasn't just a quirk. It was a strategy. And it worked. So when you ask why humans assume aliens will be hostile, you're asking why we assume any powerful stranger will be hostile. And the answer is because the ones who didn't make that assumption aren't our ancestors. Fast forward to 1898. H.G. Wells publishes The War of the Worlds, the first major story about hostile aliens. And the aliens in that book aren't just randomly evil. They're doing to humanity exactly what the British Empire was doing to the rest of the world, showing up with superior technology, deciding the locals don't matter, and taking whatever they want. Wells wasn't imagining some far-off science fiction scenario. He was holding up a mirror. He was saying, this is what contact looks like when one side has all the power. And we've done it 100 times. That template stuck. Independence Day, Arrival, the three-body problem. Even the movies where the aliens aren't hostile, Close Encounters, E.T., are notable specifically because they subvert the expectation. The default is still invasion. And it's not just movies. When scientists seriously think about first contact, the fear is right there in the room. You've probably heard of the Fermi paradox. If the universe is so big and so old, where is everybody? One answer, genuinely proposed by scientists, is the dark forest theory. The idea is that any civilization smart enough to reach the stars is also smart enough to know that advertising your location is suicide, because maybe the universe is full of predators. Maybe every civilization that gets too loud gets wiped out by someone bigger. It sounds paranoid. And it is. But it's also the same logic our guy used 70,000 years ago when he saw strangers in the woods and ran. We are still those people. We've just scaled up the woods to the size of the galaxy. Here's the thing, though. The reason we think aliens will kill us isn't because we have evidence about aliens. It's because we have evidence about us. Every time a technologically advanced civilization met a less advanced one on Earth, it went badly for the less advanced one. Every single time. We don't have a single example of that encounter going well in the long run. The Spanish and the Aztecs, the British and the Aboriginal Australians, the Americans and the Plains tribes. Over and over, the story is the same. The ones with better weapons win, and the ones who lose get erased. So when we imagine aliens landing on Earth, we're not imagining an unknowable scenario. We're imagining a replay of every first contact we've ever experienced, except this time we're the ones with the stone tools. And deep down, we know exactly how that story ends, because we're the ones who've been writing it for 70,000 years. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. We're not afraid aliens will kill us because we think they're evil. We're afraid because we know what we'd do if we were them. When the conquistadors showed up in the Americas, they didn't come to make friends. They came for gold. When European colonizers spread across Africa and Asia, they didn't ask permission. They took. And when we wiped out the Neanderthals, yeah, we did that too. We didn't do it because we were monsters. We did it because we wanted the same resources they did, and we were better at getting them. That's the real reason every alien invasion story sounds the same. We're not imagining what they do. We're projecting what we've done over and over every time we've encountered someone weaker than us. The fear isn't about aliens. It's about looking in the mirror and realizing we're the scariest thing we've ever met. So the next time you watch Independence Day or read about the Fermi Paradox, remember, we didn't invent the idea of hostile strangers from the sky. We just put them in spaceships. The fear is older than that, older than writing, older than civilization. It's the fear that kept your ancestors alive long enough to make you. And if aliens ever do show up, that fear might be the only thing that saves us again. If you want more stuff like this, questions you've never thought to ask, answered with way too much evolutionary psychology and questionable stick figure reenactments, subscribe. Because next time we're answering why you can't stop checking your phone even though you hate it, and the answer involves a dead pigeon and a guy named Skinner who definitely should not have been allowed near animals. See you then.